You got this, and you got that, and you gonna murder this one and murder that one. Talking all that bullshit. I'm gonna put it to you like this, yo.
This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me. I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What is poppin', everybody? And welcome back to another special episode of the Only Friends podcast. Well, you know, it's me and my only friends, which includes, but is not limited to, the homie, Jesse Sylvia. What's poppin', baby? How you feeling today?
I'm great, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm chilling.
Right.
How was your little, so you went on a little road trip, it seemed.
I did.
Where'd you go?
Back to where I grew up in Massachusetts. Every year after the series, I try to get out of here while it's 115 degrees.
Oh, you went back to the hood.
Yeah.
To the
The hood of Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah, you went back to the hood.
You might be the nicest person from Massachusetts.
You know what's funny?
I mean, the bar is very low. But
No, I'm not even gonna try to disagree with you because I spent a year and a half living in Boston, and man,
has anybody ever called you a masshole?
maybe, but like more ironically for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Oh, you know what I got to say about Boston? Every city, the people who live in the city say they have the worst drivers. And I'm not saying Boston has the worst drivers, but they have the meanest drivers.
I don't know about that, man.
Bro,
New York is pretty. New York City, I think, is.
All right, New York's
the
tough,
tri-state
too.
area is fucking rough.
New York gets a bad rap, though, because everyone says that everyone from New York is an asshole. But, like, man, we're way bigger assholes in Boston.
Maybe, I don't know. The city's just very,
Jesse's version of doing that is just like someone cuts him off. It's like, what are you doing, man?
the thing in like New York City, like people are assholes because nobody cares. They just mind their own business. Everybody's on the grind. Everybody has something to do or something along
Yeah,
those
see,
lines.
Jesse's just thinking to himself like, I get it. He's got somewhere to be, you know? I'm just going to let him do his thing. Everyone else in Massachusetts, ready to start a fight.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys know what today is?
What's today?
Oh, God.
Today
Taylor
is.
Swift's album drop.
I wish.
New Real Housewives coming out.
Probably.
Okay.
It is Papa Tortoise's 75th birthday.
Oh,
Wow.
Chico's birthday.
Chico.
Yeah, happy
Shout
birthday,
out.
Dad. 75 years young.
We got to get him a graphic.
I know.
You know what the upsetting part is? He can't watch a Pirates game today.
I talked to him this morning. He goes, I already miss baseball. He's like, I'm gonna root for the Yankees because Yankees is like his second team. Like
You gotta root for somebody in
team
October,
that,
right?
It's his team that like actually goes to the playoffs and stuff. He's like, I already missed the Pirates.
Wait, did you win your bet?
We won our bet, and then he bet the Pirates over 75 and a half.
Right.
And then he calls me and I'm like, there's 72 and a half out here in Vegas. He's like, all right, we'll put more money on there. So we won that bet easily, the 72 and a half. And then he had to sweat out the 75 and a half. But the Pirates needed to take 2 of 3 from the Yankees in the last series, and they did.
I mean, the Yankees gave it to him.
So he won that bet.
That's pretty crazy. A 2.5 game difference in the line.
Right?
That's
3.5.
3.5, sorry.
Or 3. It was 3. Yeah.
Oh, 72 and a half.
Yeah, it was 72 and a half and 75 and a half. I know, it's crazy.
That's pretty nuts.
Maybe they jack it up back in Pittsburgh because they know everyone's going to bet on Pittsburgh.
Well, here's the thing.
Pirates.
Everybody bet on it. So once they bet on it, the line moves.
The line moves up. Yeah,
so it's just like
so
a
maybe it started
it's a market,
like that.
So it's
right.
probably started all at the same.
Yeah, and they probably got a ton of action on it because it's Pittsburgh.
Exactly. So in their book, it went up.
Yeah.
Wait, which line just made it? The line in Pittsburgh or the line
in
here?
Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay. So you killed the line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Jesse, talk to us more about this road trip. That you just drive across the country with the pups and Ashley in the car?
You drove?
Yeah.
Wow,
we
that is a
don't want to
long
make
drive.
people. Yeah, it's like 5 days if you don't step out of your car and enjoy the scenery too often.
Okay. So how long did it take you?
Well, 5 days, but that was. let's put it this way. Jesse doesn't do a ton of the driving.
Passenger princess.
Yeah.
Passenger prince. I know something about that.
I kind of figured that.
Yeah.
Kind of figured that.
No,
Asses-
I do. I'm in there for like 30% of the driving.
It's not bad.
I'm not terrible.
You're emotionally supporting the pups.
Yeah.
You have a very important job.
I'm a great navigator, bro. I get that music lined up.
That's perfect.
Yeah, I get
You're the
the
aux
snacks
man.
out.
You have to be a good co-pilot, right? You do. You have to have the
Gotta be a
music
good-
ready.
yeah.
You can't have long pauses in between the songs. Like, oh, and I need to find a different song.
They've gotta be
You need
bangers,
to be ready.
too.
They
Oh,
got to
yeah.
be bangers. They got to keep the energy up so you guys aren't like falling asleep in the car. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
What's
it's a very important job.
What's the like number one song that gets the people going?
What were we listening to?
Who
Yo,
let the
do you guys ever listen to I'm gonna say their name.
Dave
wrong.
Matthews Band.
Hoosier.
Hosier?
Hoosier.
Yeah.
Is that how you say
Weezer?
it? The song "Too Sweet" was kind of like that. Yeah, everyone.
An
like,
Irish King.
Every road trip, every like poker tournament that you go deep in, you got to have like a reoccurring song. Right?
Absolutely.
You gotta
And that was
vibe.
our song. Yeah, that's very. But when I went deep in the main, I'll never forget. It was "Bounce" by Calvin Harris.
Okay.
I just kept like,
Strong.
I just kept playing that one to get all pumped up, and that was it.
I had this during the Win Millions, like first Win Millions. It was 13 lines, low peep.
Wow, let's go.
On repeat for at least 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But like for me, that's like normal, like which is not that. I'll listen to this all the time. Like on a Sunday, I listen to the same song for 8 hours. Like before the whole like Patrick Gandalf music going on.
Yeah.
You know, this is just like song.
You just loop it for 8 hours.
I just loop it and like I just like lock in. You know, it's like background music at some point.
I mean,
You're a
just,
sicko.
I got to do that with like.
That's like what they do
words
to
with,
torture people. You
yeah,
know?
like
the same
Torture chamber. Landon's in a North Korean prison. They're just looping Justin Bieber, and he's loving it.
You can listen to this for 8 hours though.
Oh yeah. Keep the cat. I want to hear this for 8 hours straight.
Right.
Yeah. How long till you go insane?
I can only do that with music with no words. I
Like
can just leave it
instrumental?
on
Yeah,
loop. Actually,
yeah.
you know what? You put me onto that.
I love that for
You
poker.
are what put me on to music with no words. I've
Yeah.
never listened to like those whatever they are. Like there's like anime playlists and stuff like that, and just like really soothing, cool.
I'm so glad to hear that you.
Expanded.
Yeah,
That's why
that you really like that.
That's why I like Dave Matthews, man, because it's 2 minutes of lyrics and then like 18 minutes of instrumental.
Yeah, that's like fish.
Matt Insane.
It's fish as well. That's why I like
yeah,
them
they
too.
just jam it out.
Yeah.
Connie, if you want a nice mix of both, I think Rufus Du Sol is really good too.
Yo,
I'm sorry, I
Rufus
couldn't
is a frequently played artist when I play poker for sure.
Rufus, they're
Road
great.
trip music.
I
Inner
saw them at
Bloom.
Red Rocks
Did you?
a long time ago.
Who?
I watched the Red Rocks. I assume it's the same set, but I watch that set on YouTube all the time. That's a great set.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to give a shout out to Landon's inner thighs that I cannot see today. Look at him, guys. He's
I got
wearing
mine.
jeans.
I got jeans.
I got you
Real
covered.
person.
I got you covered.
Yeah,
Landon. Don't
like-
worry.
Yeah, one of the two of us has got to wear the pants.
Listen, it's goddamn October and it's still 105 in Vegas. What's going on here?
I
I
don't
want to
know.
wear pants, but I can't.
I went to the
Sweating.
outlet store, man. I bought a bunch of stuff, so now
Yeah?
I gotta wear it.
Nice.
It's what it is.
Nice.
Shout out.
Becoming
Shout out
becoming a real person one day at a time.
Becoming
you
a
gotta do it.
person.
Yeah.
There's a pretty wild difference between 115 and 105. Like 115,
Yeah, for
you're not
sure.
going outside. I came back, it's like 103. I was like, it's beautiful.
Not
Yeah,
bad,
it's
yeah.
gorgeous
But
outside.
it's still like it's October. I want it to be like 85.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that's fair.
That's like usually like October weather's like the best weather in Vegas.
But it's funny
But
because
you know.
85 is like 85 here. You can wear a sweatshirt. Like if you're not in this direct line of the sun, you can wear a sweatshirt
Yeah.
and be comfortable.
Yeah.
No, you're right. On the East Coast, it was 85 because of humidity.
Right.
It was unbearable. And here,
Brutal.
85, you're like,
yeah.
I could throw on like a
85
long sleeve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
85 and humid is rough.
Yeah.
All right, well, moving on. I want to give a shout out to Archie Karas. Not a shout out. Sorry. Our condolences. He's passed away.
Oh, wow.
The gambling legend.
He's everywhere, Conrad's everywhere.
The gambling legend who turned 50 into $40 million
Wow.
for the biggest.
Crazy.
This was very controversial, man. People were in the comments like, this guy's like not like a cheater. This guy's not a cheater. There's a lot going on.
I mean, I don't think
We
whether
don't-
or not he's a cheater is debatable, but
I mean, we don't know.
well,
Somebody,
no, I mean,
We're gonna debate it.
I mean, somebody put in I saw it on Twitter. Saw a couple things saying that it was possible that he might have cheated, but like
Conspiracy, jury's out.
who knows?
I mean, my
Fuck.
understanding of like
If
the
you gotta
highest
wait-
stakes.
$40 million. How do you cheat a casino for $40 million?
Oh, he cheated the casino, not.
Oh yeah, this
the
this
poker
was
player.
No. This was like a craps baccarat run
Hey man, I mean,
Hell yeah, get
or
him
some-
for all you can, man.
or something. along those lines.
I mean, when it comes to like the Ivey baccarat, like edge sorting, right? Found the way to get through there.
Yeah, I mean,
And he's not cheating, right? It's part of the game, but he kind of got away with it.
It's funny that you say that because a court, I feel like, ruled against him.
Didn't they try to say in court, and I don't know if they proved it or I didn't really read the case, but
We're not a news source.
I don't. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I thought that they tried
bullshit.
to. I thought that the Borgata or whoever was on the other side of the court case tried to say that he had a connection to somebody who made the cards at the company that made the cards, so that he was able to like get them to create those little differences in the cards.
This is breaking news because I haven't heard this one.
Yeah.
That was something that I read somewhere, and I have no idea if the person made it up or whatever. But if that's the case, then that feels more like cheating. Whereas
that
what
would be,
Ivey did
that would, right.
is being sharp.
Right, exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
the whole Borgata thing was when he brought that hit the lady with him that was helping him, and I don't remember. I don't know. They just had some type of technique, from what I understood, that allowed them to read the cards that they got put in play.
Yeah, I think she just supposedly had sharper eyes, like she could see it better than him, and then she would kind of tell him what to do or whatever. I thought that was what was going on, but I mean, it could be something more nefarious than that. I have no idea.
Yeah, just I'm doing phone research. I just found a clip of Ivey talking about it against the edge sorting against Borgata and Crockford's is what it was. I sent it to Guapo. Let's see what they got.
It's a podcast chat.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't have asset ability. I'm not privileged. Yeah,
We have to. We'll see. Like we have a podcast chat, and we also have an podcast asset chat. But we have to limit the people in the asset chat, or it just becomes too cluttered with bullshit.
Yeah,
That's
probably
why
true.
I mute half the chats.
But yeah, it seems like
so
if
Landon does not have privileges because he would clutter it up. No offense.
yeah.
Yeah, so it seems like in 2016, a judge did decide that Ivey would be forced to pay the casino $10.1 million
Well, I guess-
after factoring the $500K he won playing craps.
yeah. Looks like that's the case, and the video's dead. So RIP.
Yeah,
RIP
the
video.
video.
RIP the video. All right.
Womp womp. Try my best. This is why I don't have access.
But yeah, I don't know. $50 to $40 million. That's a sick run.
What percent return
Nice
is that?
run up.
I mean, do you think that it's possible for somebody to make a run up like that in a casino and not go broke though?
Right. Exactly.
Like, over time.
The-
You
the-
mean like fairly, like with the casino having an edge, or however?
no,
you
I think
wanna-
what he's saying is that
it's
the
like-
degeneracy that you need to have.
Like you have so much
to
money.
like if you turn $50 into like $100K, like you should probably just leave.
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
to be a degenerate, to keep going. Now you get to 2 million. I'm going to keep playing. I'm play higher, and then to run it all the way up to 40 million. Well, eventually you're going to go broke.
It's
right?
weird, right? Because like at some
'Cause
point
you're never
going to
stop. Right. That's the point. It's never enough. If you don't stop at 1 million, if you turn 50 into 1 million and you don't leave, and that's not enough, then you're just going to play forever until you finally go broke.
Because like if
You
you really,
eventually go broke because they have the edge.
yeah, like if you think about how much like this case, like 40 million, how much that was in 1992 or 1993.
Yeah.
What is that?
Shout out inflation,
today?
baby.
It's like absurd.
Yeah.
gotta
Today
be
it's hundreds of
over
millions.
100,
Yeah.
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 So-
Maybe a couple 100 million, maybe even.
You know, I just wonder
least
if
100.
like if you have that in you to run it up there, do you ever have it in you to keep it?
I mean, doubtful, right? Unless you like,
Unless someone drags you away kicking and screaming.
yeah, somewhere else, like you give someone access to the money.
Yeah. You need to have like really, really good friends who just like, pull you away somehow.
Because
I
you
mean,
don't get to that number responsibly.
Yeah.
So
Well, to be fair, I don't know if it's probably pretty much statistically impossible to run 50 into 40 million unless you haven't like a massive edge regardless. So maybe you just never leave because you have this huge edge
Yeah.
until you get banned.
well, that's what happened, I guess, right? Like
Did
Ivey
you get
just.
banned?
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Like it's in the same vein, right? If he
Yeah.
had some sort of way to edge sort or have some extra info, then he got caught. It's like, well, you're probably not gonna be able to play here anymore if they think you're cheating. That's what happened in the Ivey case, but
I just saw a podcast where David Williams talked about running 5K up to $1 million in like less than 2 days.
That was a
Really?
great story. I heard that one.
Yeah.
He did it?
Yeah, David Williams.
Doing
He
what?
did it playing poker too.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, PLO. I think a big chunk of it was PLO in Bobby's room.
Oh,
This is back in the
Oh,
day when you
shit.
could just
go in there.
yeah, exactly. You could
Just
like spin it
saunter
up
in.
at 1020, 1020, 40 to like 30K, go short stack in Bobby's room.
That's
yeah.
absolutely.
And then
lose it,
just
go
go on a run and
Generational
Yep.
run.
Generational run. I think he said he lost it in like 2 days too, doing some other stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of the
It's-
same
it's tough
same
to hold on
idea,
to.
right? Right? If you run like 5K into $1 million, then you're probably gonna eventually lose it all.
There was a guy, I mean, there's probably more than one story like this, but there would always be a story of a guy who won like, 100K or 200K in the Sunday Million back in the day, but they'd get second and then they would try to, run it back to like win the first place by playing heads up sit and goes versus some sicko and they'd lose it all
Oh,
doing
no.
that. Stuff like that I used to
Oh
see
my
a lot.
god.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
Okay, so
I'm
it looks
glad you
like
didn't do that with your main event money.
so using phone
Still might.
phone logic. Shout out to
too late.
Wikipedia, not a news source. So Archie started with 10K in his pocket, went to a pool table, started playing 9-ball for 5K a game, raising the stakes,
Okay.
and they ended up getting it to 40K per game. And then he ended up winning 1.2 million at this time.
This is Archie?
Yeah, this is
Wow.
Archie playing pool. So he
Wait,
was
he won $1 million just playing pool?
1.2 playing pool. Yeah. And then he decided to play poker at Binion's, where he won $3 million more from the same guy he played pool against. So he was playing this guy. Apparently his name is Mr. X or whatever his name is. They're playing pool for a bunch of money. Archie beats around at 1.2. They say, okay, I want to play poker. They play poker. He wins $3 million extra. With a bankroll of $4 million, he gambled up to $7 million after 3 months in Las Vegas. So it sounds like he's kind of responsible, going from
it's
4 to
actually-
7.
Yeah, there you go.
That sounds like a slow grind.
Yeah, he'd be grinding for 3 months. I mean, slow grind to make $3 million in 3 months. Very, very slow, very achievable.
It's a very slow grind, man. I tell you what.
Financial advice. Then he played Stu Unger in poker, and then he beat Unger for 500K playing heads up Raz.
Wow,
Then
beating the
played
legend.
Unger in 7-card stud for 700K. Then he played Chip Reese, and after 25 games, Reese was down 2 million. So this guy's just end bossing everyone. He beat Puggy Pearson, Johnny Moss,
Literally every legend.
and then he played. Oh, the only player to beat Karas in the first round during this generational run was none other than Johnny Chan.
I think it was Robert
Johnny.
Marconi.
Yeah, Johnny Chan beat him for 900K.
Oh my god.
Way into the bag for that.
So by the
Marconi
end,
shaves Helmuth's head and then immediately beats Archie Karas out of $5 million.
by the end of it, Karas had a roll of 17 million. Karas said Doyle Brunson was the only player able to beat him at Raz during this generational run.
Insane.
Then he turned to craps for 100K per roll. He was allowed to make pass line and bets up to 300K with no odds. Jack Binion capped some of the bets on the 4 and 10 at 100K, and then Karas won 900K under these conditions. And then Karas said he could quickly win $3 million on dice, which it would take days to weeks with poker. So this is where the degeneracy is coming
yeah.
up.
Turnkey.
Like,
Like,
I
can't win enough
I'm not
playing
making money
poker.
fast enough.
Right.
So he
Yeah.
actually started like seemed like skilled, slow, and just like playing poker, pool hustling, and stuff like that. And then he found degeneracy.
Right. So at this point, apparently, he was the only holder of the 5K chips at Binion's.
He had
That's
them all.
sick.
He had them all, amassing up to 40 million. So the downfall, here we go. This is where it all comes crashing down.
Oh no.
This came to an end in 1995, where he lost most of his money in a period of 3 weeks, losing 11 million playing craps, and then 2 million he won from Chip Reese back to him. So Chip Reese got his money back.
Good.
He can't go out like that. Following those losses, he switched to Baccarat, lost 17 million. He probably should have talked to Ivey. He probably should. And then with 12 million left, I know about this part. With 12 million left, he needed a break. He took a detox, so he went back to Greece
Yeah.
with $12 million.
I was about to say you could buy a nice villa in Greece and
Yeah.
just go fishing.
Right.
Oh, yeah. So he's fishing forever. He comes back to Vegas. He went back to the Horseshoe, playing craps and Baccarat, 300K per bet. And in less than a month, he lost everything but his last million. With his last million, he went to the bike, played Johnny Chan in a $1 million freeze out. What? Chan was backed by Lyle Berman, mixed game legend, and they took turns playing Karas. He preferred playing both of them instead of just Johnny, as he felt that Johnny was tougher. Karas won and doubled his money, only to lose it all on dice and baccarat in a few days.
Oh, no.
So he won a bunch of money, span it down playing baccarat, went to Greece, took a detox, came back. They got him again, and then he wanted to double or nothing against Johnny Chan and Lyle Berman. Got it through, and then lost it all playing non-poker games. So, but it sounds like he's a poker goat.
It does sound like he's a poker goat. And let's hear from another poker goat. Because I feel like they had the same strat back then, somehow, some way.
But someone was good at baccarat.
Yeah, someone was good at baccarat, but we're talking poker now. Ivey came out with this video.
What do you do studying poker away from the table?
Go ahead, Connie. Sorry.
No, run that. Run that bad boy.
No, set it up. Set it up.
All right.
When I'm studying away from the table.
Basically, this video was put out. I think it was Joey that retweeted it recently. And he was...
It's like 12 or 15 years ago, right?
It's 17 years ago,
17
I think.
years ago?
I know the second video when he's wearing the tank top is 17 years ago.
Okay.
And it's basically Phil talking about his strategy and how he goes about things at the poker table.
So, guys, I'm interested to hear what it is that you do studying poker away from the table. Phil?
Well, for me, when I'm studying away from the table has to do with me just thinking about the hands that I played, thinking about the way I played the hands, what my opponent was thinking, the different amounts they bet in different situations, what I could do against them next time, what they think of me as a player. Do they think I'm playing tight? Do they think I'm playing aggressive? What are they going to try to get away with doing against me next time? So really, when I'm studying, it's more thinking about ways to play against my opponent the next time that I play against them.
I have a lot of different styles. It depends on how everybody's playing. It depends on what they're bringing to the table that day. I don't go into any poker game with a strategy. I don't go and say, I'm going to play tight today, I'm going to play loose today, I'm going to play aggressive. I just go there and just try and, basically take what they give me. If they're playing tight, I try and go after some pots, or I might be playing conservative. It depends. I can't really say how I'm going to play on any given day. But for the most part, I do tend to go after pots, and I probably play more hands than the average player.
When you're playing in a game, right, there's so many times where, like, you make a bad decision, and then later on, you start thinking about, all the different variables, everything that happened in that hand, and the decision is so clear to you what you should have done, okay? So it's like, so you think about that, you process it, and then the next time you play, you're able.
So I want to ask you guys, 17 years later, you think this video still holds true? Do you think that it's possible for someone to come up with today's game thinking with this type of study?
I mean, look at the Vanilla Gorilla, man.
It's true. The Vanilla Gorilla is somebody out there that's a prototype for this.
Jesse Lonis.
I was going to guess Jesse.
I should have to guess. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to that video and the way the poker was, moneymaker era, I imagine that the Ivey way, or like the Vanilla Gorilla way, if you will, was kind of the only way. There's different strategies of playing tighter or looser, all of these things, but nothing was quantifiable. Like, you couldn't know if your strategy was doing well. You would just have results over and over again, and at some point the survivors would stay and everyone else would be losing money. I'm quite positive these days, I'm sure Ivey's looking at solvers or has people around him that do, to get some of the ideas, especially with how much tougher the game has got and how much more robotic it's gotten in the sense of principles at higher levels, right? Q ICM decisions, Q bubble decisions, where back then there was no info or ability to find out answers. You just had to figure them out for yourself. So I think that stuff still applies when it comes to finding strategies or ways to win money. But when it comes to the general baseline, it's definitely a plus to be rooted in fundamental strategy, because not everybody's as talented as Ivey or Jesse in the street style, if you will, without having some of the background.
Yeah, and I also think he's like upplaying the adjustments and downplaying the fact that he goes in with, says he doesn't go in with a strategy, but he goes in with a base understanding of how he's going to play every spot. And at the time, and still now for most of the spots against almost everyone in the world, it's better than everyone else's base strategy, right? So he does go in with a strategy, whether or not he's, going to pump that side of it up in the interviews. and he went in with a better strategy than almost everyone on the planet for 20 years.
Yeah, if you're good at knowing when someone has a good hand or not, you're probably going to be pretty good at poker.
Yeah.
Regardless of the work you do on or off the table.
Yeah, I think a lot of that, it just mattered so much more back then when nobody knew what they were doing, right? There was no solvers. Nobody could so it was just like being able to, know when people are playing aggressive and know when they're not, and being able to, step on the gas and not. And he was the best at doing that.
Yeah, the whole changing gears when you look at the
right. That's where that came from. But like back then, it was a viable strategy because it worked. Right?
I mean, he definitely had strategy because it was just his fundamentals, like Jesse said. Like he just he had the best fundamentals at the table, and if you tied that in with basically knowing people, just knowing what the vibe, like whatever throughout the hand situations, you're going to be one of the best. It seems.
I really like that he talked about. Just getting people's energies and like reading that, because I saw a cool interview, I think it was with Charlie Carroll, about how there's like two types of live tells. One is like the ones where you physically notice something on someone, like this guy
scratch his face or something.
Yeah,
that's absurd.
Oreo cookie tell, if
pumps
you will.
his chest up to look stronger when he's weak.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the other tell where you just sort of get like an indescribable energy off the person, and I've definitely felt that many times at the table.
Whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, for sure. But it's hard to act on that, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't.
Especially nowadays.
Yeah, and I personally like having some reasoning behind it, even if my instinct is to fold. Like I need some kind of reason for it. But I think Ivey was probably scary good at that.
I remember you and I played a hand on Bally's. When we were talking about it after, like I had like ace hearts 5 or something, and you bet, and I jammed, and then you folded, and you're like,
I really wanted to call.
Like I really wanted to call you, but it would look insane if I did it. Like, you said this to me.
Well, I didn't mean so much like
He would have won, by the way. He would have won.
It felt
definitely had best.
It wasn't like, like I'd look dumb. I mean, I definitely would have looked kind of dumb if I was wrong, but like it was kind of like if I did call and I was right, it's like I'm okay, maybe my like instincts were good or whatever, but like I didn't really have any logic behind it. So it's like I'm kind of like playing this like just trying to be a hero guessing game, and it makes like you look like you got really owned, whereas like I'm not sitting here being like I know I'm right here. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm gambling really hard in this spot if I make this call with like terrible blockers and just like a really dumb spot. And there's like the negative free roll of like Landon just feels like a piece of crap when like he gets called, because he's like, why would you call me with this hand? You know what I mean? Like it just felt like a negative free roll for both of us, like life wise.
It's also hard to like just throw out all the fundamentals, right? Just because of that one feeling, like, or maybe it's
Ivey, like to a degree, Ivey would have called, right? If he had that feeling you felt X amount of years ago, and he's just like, I just don't think you have a good hand.
Yeah.
So he definitely would have did that 17 years ago. Would he have done it now in that spot? I don't know.
Who knows?
Right? Because I assume now, like you said, now he's more studied. He understands, he's not going. I would assume throughout the years, his feel-based game has diminished, right? Through time?
Well,
like,
I think
people got better at masking it too.
What's that?
I think people got better at masking it. Like people were probably much bigger tell. I mean, he was doing wild shit back then. Remember that like 6-bet jam for
on the paired
more
board?
Yeah, like he literally jammed for like nothing more.
Right.
And
he had like Queen 8 or something, right? It was like Jack 3.
Yeah, something like that. And like it was like the turn, and the guy just kept putting in more bets, and he was just like, he also probably was like, why are you putting in the 5th bet if you actually have what you're representing? But like he definitely, I don't know if that would go down in this day and age. You know what I'm saying?
I think to a degree, like at least back then and still now, that approach of being able to dilute how you feel. Yeah, this hand, right? This one?
Yeah. This might be the best hand of all time.
Yeah, so it's like open, raise, 3-bet, 4-bet, and then he 5-bet piles or something. Yeah. And it's just like, okay, in a sentence.
He was doing it for value. He had the best hand.
Yeah. In a sentence, Ivey's just like, I don't believe you. It's that simple, right? There's nothing more, nothing less in the sense of poker as the game that poker is being played. And maybe he can quantify that by saying, I don't think he would 3-bet a jack in the first place. I think he would like slow play and trap. But
another 150,000. Now it's up to 470.
Almost 1 million chips in this pot now.
This is incredible.
Look at those mountains of chips.
And you can almost hear the wheels turning in the head of Phil Ivey. Is this for real?
Right, and I'm thinking Phil Ivey has got to fold here.
Oh, yeah? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
I mean, is his opponent going to raise him twice with nothing? After Phil Ivey has shown strength?
How much you got left?
So when he's talking to him here, is he trying to pick stuff up, you think?
Oh, for sure.
Probably.
Yeah.
380. 363 item.
380,000 is what Jackson finally arrives at.
What do you mean pick stuff up and just understand how much he has?
Let's put this in perspective. We're looking at a million chip pot, and both players have
he doesn't have to answer him, right? The dealer can just...
We are looking at two guys,
but it's like
bluffing
etiquette-wise.
with nothing. Both of them. Who's going to blink?
With 2 cards to come.
This is actually sicker than I remember because there's a flush draw on the board, so people actually fast played
I don't
some
see
jacks.
how he can possibly continue.
Oh, right.
with
Jack
the
7 flush draw, and he's queen of hearts.
So it's kind of funny because I think like
done.
poker has found its curve. Like, so I feel like a couple of years ago it was nothing but like study, and that's how people played. And now I feel like they're mixing the two between like
the field game is coming
and the
back.
field game.
Yeah, it's making
like,
a comeback.
The field game is here, baby. Like there's just a lot of, I don't know what it is. It's not the exact.
It's the pendulum swing a little bit, right? Because it's just like you go so far where you're just like it's all solver based. We have to play exactly like a solver. We do this exact same this what the solver's telling you to do, and then you're going to win. And then you realize that, oh, wait, we're still playing humans. Yeah. People still make mistakes that can be exploited.
And that's what it is. People realize they're making more money by doing both.
Right.
Like understanding the study side of it and tying everything in with the human element.
I wonder, it's a tough discussion just because when it comes to most people
solver boy.
that are playing poker and using some solves to their advantage. I call it wizard now with the stuff that they have going on. Call it octopi going on, like shots of them too. It's just this weird in between of playing the game through fundamentals, but also trying to diagnose where your opponent is fundamentally breaking down. You know, if, let's say, okay, I think in this spot, I need to check this hand back because they're playing a check raise percent of 20%. But then you think to yourself, okay, I'm playing this guy in this small field tournament, the small buy-in tournament. I don't think he's going to check raise 20%. What's the next best answer? Like, what's the new counter strategy? Because I know they're not playing close to machine poker. And then coming up with a conclusion of, okay, if I bet this hand and he check raises, I can fold. Where in the machine you can't bet this hand because you don't want to get check raised.
Yeah,
and you're finding that in between in every single node with the knowledge you have of, okay, on river, his range construction needs to have these amount of bluffs and these combos for bluffing. I don't think those exist. How does this change the value of my hand? Like, does folding actually win money because calling is bad now? And now you're finding these in-betweens and giving yourself some grace to make those exploitative decisions where before it's like you're more worried about not being exploited yourself. Like, I don't want someone to take advantage of me, so I will call at the MDF that I need to. But now it's kind of shifting back to I'm playing versus a guy that's probably not finding enough bluffs here. I think folding has to be the best play.
Yeah, I think there's also these situations where you can take people to a node that doesn't really exist and it's suboptimal to be there. But if you navigate that node way better, like I've been doing a lot of like final table studies. And I was watching a spot where if you do a lot of ICM study, it's like pretty clearly a 3-better fold spot for a player. Like chip leader opens and they're like on the shorter side. And if they're entering the pot, let's say they're, hijack, they just want to be 3-betting because the value of taking down the pot is so high and they have a very strong range. And the player flatted something like pocket nines. And it's like, okay, there's a few reasons why this isn't great. Part of it is like your range is kind of face up. But let's say that this player is like, plays this node a lot better because the other person just does a lot of study and doesn't really know what to do in this situation at a position now that they've been flatted. Like that could actually be really good. And that's like a situation where I can see like a player like Ivey excelling because he just has so much experience in poker that he's like better at the weird nodes that shouldn't exist.
Yeah, like good example, like you're talking about in these final table situations or high ICM situations, the chip leader should be relatively aggressive, like with not even just like playing jams pre-flop, but like opening a lot of hands as well. So if you're at a certain stack depth where you kind of want to force the chip leader that you don't think is playing perfect poker to play out of position with a wider range, there is a lot of EV to gain from that by having your tight range that can still be constructed well, right? Instead of 3-betting ace king every time, maybe flat it a little bit, or ace queen suited, right? Flat those a little bit. And then have this range that's really, really strong and have the ability to play in position if you think that the people behind you aren't going to take advantage and play squeezes as much as they're supposed to.
Yeah.
So there's definitely just like a bigger part of the game where, call it X years ago, if someone flats in this spot, the chip leader might think to themselves, oh, like this guy doesn't know any better. Like this guy is clearly not studied because he played flats in a 3-bet or fold spot. This guy is like a whale or playing badly. Where in reality, the EV gain that they're having in this spot is actually worth much more than playing the 3-bet in the first place.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny you said that because I just watched a really good interview with Ike, with Jonathan Jaffe.
Yeah, we watched it. On here.
Such a good, and he talks about sort of the same concept, but just with c-bets. And he's like, there'll be a spot where you're supposed to c-bet like, a blind or whatever, 1.2 blinds, and people bet like half pot or 3/4, and it's like everyone just immediately is like, oh, this guy's like bad.
Yeah.
It's like, but it turns out like it's just like not losing that much to do these things, and you put your opponents in this weird situation where they don't really know how to respond because they're not used to dealing with this, unless they're incredibly well studied or they have a lot of experience with this sort of thing. And like, it's a bigger mistake to look at that guy and be like, oh, he's like really bad, so I'll just play him like, like whatever type of fish that you've just imagined that they are. And it turns out they're just not losing that much doing that. And now you've made these huge adjustments that might be losing way more.
Yeah, I've definitely put myself in this spot, Q 2 years ago, back very solver era guy. And obviously I'm still a solver guy. Like I love looking at stuff, and now I'm more interested in the responses versus mistakes versus just pointing out the mistake and being like, oh, like this guy sucks. Like I'm gonna sit here all day and try to make as much money as I can.
Yeah.
Versus, oh, like maybe there's like, what's the philosophy behind why they're doing what they're doing? Is it because they don't know better, or it's because they do know better and they think that this is the better option?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, maybe they're taking advantage of me in some way where I'm looking at it like very short-sighted as if I'm playing the machine, I'm gonna win X amount of big blinds per 100, but I'm playing this guy. Where like parallel to poker and chess, it's very similar where the top guys don't always play book lines anymore because it ends in draws. You have to find ways to take theoretically suboptimal lines because the response is so hard to find in game.
Yeah.
Where if you know that spot better than them, you're going to be able to have some edge there. But if you're just playing stone by the book, everybody knows the book.
I think the first thing you said is like a great takeaway, not just for poker, but for life. Like, you can't really jump on somebody else for making a mistake if you don't know how to exploit the mistake, right? Like it's like very silly to be like, oh, I know that that's bad. But if you don't know why it's bad, like what you should do to make it bad, then it's really not that bad.
It might be good. It might just be better.
Yeah.
It's like you just start folding in this spot because you think that you need to defend a certain way and that the EV gain is this, that, or whatever. But now with the solvers and the way that you can get info so fast, especially with like not even node locking, but just like using the pencil to edit the percent that the guy bets. You can see that the EV really isn't that different, but some continues or some floats that out of position might make because they think they have to float the hand could be more costly to them where they think, oh, I have a gutter. Like, of course I can't fold. Where in reality, it's a mixed play. So if you're calling every single time, you're going to be losing money over the long term.
You know who's really good at showing and explaining this? Pads. On his Instagram stories. These things are absolutely nuts. If you guys don't know Pads, Patrick Leonard, he's been on our podcast before. His stories are so good. This whole past month, he's been playing Scoop, I believe it.
Scoop and GG stuff, yeah.
Yeah, playing Scoop and GG stuff, and every single day you just get 25 to 50 stories of him breaking down spots and explaining them. We have a couple here for you that we're going to play. And yeah, they're so good.
So I don't think he's going to fold like ace, deuce off and stuff like this. I think we should have enough fold equity that I'm just going to jam this one. So we made the final table before the last. We're going to VPip this hand one way or another. He raises covering us all into a short stack big blind who's on the tighter side. So I don't think he's going to fold like ace, deuce off and stuff like this. I think we should have enough fold equity that I'm just going to jam this one. I could call and try to keep in the big blind too, but I think just getting fold equity against the guy who's covering all of us is going to be a good strategy. So yeah, I'm going to go for the jam for 25. It's enough where he won't just call like ace 7, ace 8, stuff like this as well. If I had like 17, maybe he raised calls, but for this much, he shouldn't, obviously. Even like king jack off should fold. I think queen jack's a good rejam there. Yeah, I mean, maybe you guys don't think so. Anybody wants to call? Let me know. Revenge! Revenge against Leon! Revenge! 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 1,200. It was a 32k min cash in the end. So we're 1,250 down. We got 29,000 to go. A sick hand against Yuri. He opens. I free bet into the gun. I think it's fine. Some frequencies. These combos.
I need to stop checking the lobby. Like I know what I want to play. Right.
Flop is 10-8-5. I go for a bet. Maybe I could play check and bigger bets. Maybe that would be a good strategy. He goes for a check raise. I call. 10, 9 of hearts. He goes for a big bet. I don't think I can fold open ender. I want to have some bluffs on hearts. And what would I bluff? Because I'm going to fold ace king no heart on the turn, right? So I call. Rivers a heart. He checks. We're all in. I don't know. He folds, but maybe I had the best hand. Open. I flat ace king. I feel people behind me are maybe a little bit crazy. Some guys who are kind of aggressive. I flat ace king. He's his name to punt or not to punt. There's a tiny free bet. Then banana flats. This is kind of what I wanted, just a bunch of dead money, like maybe it goes like overcall, squeeze, all this kind of stuff. So I think this is kind of nice. Hopefully, I mean, I definitely have full equity from at least one. Big and against ace queen, something tense, fine. Basically, you get to flip a bunch of dead money, and let's see what happens. I guess we just want the ace of diamonds on the river. I guess. Actually, no. I want ace of clubs. I want the ace of clubs. Straight? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, jack, queen, king. Don't see how.
So I put that up because a lot of the videos are very good. Like it's like almost like complete training ground for MTT. Like you can just literally watch these things and learn so much about his thought process and stuff. But I've also learned that he's found that curve where he ties everything together. This guy, his power jams are the best things I've ever seen in my life. Where he just goes check to the river 3 ways. He's like, I'm just gonna power jam here. And
those spots are sick, man. They're so hard to get right.
But like, is there a right or wrong there? In a sense?
If your opponent just starts calling a ton, you better actually be balanced.
Yes.
Or if they hero fold every time, you better actually be balanced. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to get right because you have to get it right across multiple streets, right? Like you have to find nutted checkbacks on the turn when you're super deep and want to be piling money in on the turn. So it's like you have to. I think hands become really hard when you have to think about all the runouts a street ahead of time and like how you wanna have your range be balanced.
Yeah, I mean he's got to be one of the best at it because this guy is just absolutely crushing online. Like this scoop, he's won. What is it?
He's cashed for $1.5 million. He's profited $1 million.
That's so sick,
wow. Dude. Wait, this is Scoop or WCOOP?
Scoop. This is WCOOP for World Championship. Scoops is in the spring. So
he did that during Scoop. You're saying?
No, during this because WCOOP is effectively over. This is one of he's on day 28.
Oh, so I thought it just began. Okay.
No, so WCOOP's been going on this entire time. Patrick's cashed for $1.5 million overall for everything that he's been playing. Profited over $1 million, and I think he's won 6 tournaments or somewhere along these lines for this WCOOP.
Man,
so
that's so sick because so many of these events that I see are like, they're sub 100K for first, don't get me wrong, he final tabled a 10K or whatever and got like fourth in it for 500K or something like that.
25K, yeah.
The 25K was?
It was a 25K for 515.
Yeah. But like a lot of these events aren't, they're not that big. They're not huge.
Yeah.
So I don't. He just absolutely
putting up
crushed.
a lot of results.
Yeah, so he
a
got
lot of consistency.
second in a 10K. But yeah, like some of these fields are much smaller. You know, it's obviously great when you bang off a 25K for 25 buy-ins and have that score going on.
That must have been a decent size 25K.
It was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was huge. Brewer got second. Shout out to Brewer.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah, so
What was second?
like 890 or like somewhere around 900K or something.
Who won
like
that? You know? Oh, that's the one that the Italian that we don't know won.
Yes. Vamo Italy.
Not the Italian that you do know, unfortunately.
No, unfortunately it wasn't.
Or either one. Got a couple Italians in this room.
It's crazy because I know how much work Patrick has put into studying for these things as well as playing, as well as doing this content over the grind is something that's extremely commendable. Like I've been fortunate enough to be able to grind scoops and not WCOOPs yet, but with him and being able to like walk on the seawall and have some conversations about how he views how he's playing and where he's at. And he's always like, yep, same thing, different day. Just got to keep grinding, get the content out, make it to Friday, which is like the day off for the grinders for stars. They give everybody a day off so they can live real life a little bit throughout this time. Yeah. But yeah, stays consistent. He's exactly what it looks like in the Instagram stories. And it's cool to see not just hard work paying off in a sense, because Patrick works this hard as a default, but there's definitely a different mode to him when he's in that couple weeks before the series starts and then during. And then after he's like, okay, like I just need some time off to a degree and get back to the real world. But during championship season, it's championship season.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was gone.
Well, I was just going to say, it's also really nice to see him doing so well, on top of the fact that he's a good dude that's easy to root for.
Right.
And he works so hard and he deserves it or whatever. I hate using the word deserves in poker, but, he's a good guy to say he deserves it.
Yeah. Your hard work should be paid off.
But also, as a professional poker player, right? Like, you want him to be winning $1 million, because if you saw that guy speaking about hands the way he does, and he's grinding out like $50 tournaments online, poker is fucking dead.
Yeah, right.
Man.
Right.
Oh my God. You need him winning $1 million. You're like, okay, that's the pinnacle.
Right.
Like, you don't want that thought process to be like the middle ground of what's going on Stars right now.
And for what it's worth, like there are scoops and times where he does think at a very high level and doesn't win the all-ins that he needs to and has losing scoops or slightly profitable ones. But at the same time, when someone's thought process is completely on point and they're locked in and you see the all-ins kind of go their way in the big spots, it's like very validating to see someone of his caliber succeed, and not just succeed, but make life-changing money in a short amount of time, where that's kind of what it's all for.
While doing it in front of the people, breaking down content, like every single big hand he plays, you get his full thought.
Yeah, he can't help himself. He's unfiltered, unrestricted. He's telling you exactly what's going through his mind at all times when it comes to, okay, I think that a power jam would work here because he checked back the turn. It's going to be very hard for him to defend. And also giving you the insights as to why he wants to do things in certain ICM situations, why he wants to play some spots in final tables, why he tells you why he doesn't want Leon Sturm to call him on the bubble when he's about to make the money. Great. So you get everything, and he puts everything on there, and he's great with being balanced with all the stuff he posts. Sometimes he's power jamming the value, sometimes he's power jamming the nothing, and you can't just look at his story and say, okay, I have a read on this guy. And it's something that anyone that's trying to make a career in poker look up to.
Well, it's funny because like on the flip, like it's like what you're saying, I take a lot from his stories. Like I watch his stories and I'm like, I just try to learn from each and every single one of them. Like I take so much that I study a certain way because of him now. Like I just seen how he had once put like what do you call that? When you speed up a camera forever. Time lapse. He put a time lapse a video of just like him studying or whatever, and I just like watched it for a minute, and I'm just like, okay, this makes a lot of sense. Like just taking hands, putting them in a Google Docs as you're playing online, and just going through everything with your thoughts and stuff like that. And I was just like, yeah, I've taken a lot from it. You can just learn a shitload from Padge's Twitter.
Bro, he's the sickest human being. He had a post one time where he's just like, You know when you get really into studying some sims and you're clicking around at different situations and all of a sudden you realize that like 11 hours has gone by? Every second I spend like in PO feels like a million hours, dude.
Right.
I love poker, but you know what I'm saying.
I think that's kind of a huge deterrent when these tools and software that exist now wasn't around. And as someone that came up in poker with the tools and without the AI generated strategy,
the long running sims that you had to
pre-ruse, when every time you tried to run a single raise pot 100 big blinds deep for cash, it took at least 30 to 45 minutes. It definitely took away that information barrier now that you have all this stuff. So with Patrick and someone that's so curious and very dedicated to the game, you can quickly be like, okay, I have all of these hands, because I've seen it. Like, he tags every single hand that he doesn't have a clue about. He's like, I think this is good, but I'm not sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tag it, I'm going to review it later, and on my own time, mostly on the Friday where you're supposed to take some days off, it revitalizes him to look at some stuff, find new strategy, and spend X amount of time looking over some spots and then sending it to his network and the BitB guys, which, shout out to BitB, like they're some of the smartest guys in poker, winning all of the money right along with him. And when you have that network, that community, and like that drive to learn with curiosity, like, how can you lose? You know,
Absolutely.
You can have a losing scoop, you can have a losing year, but if he's still feeling like he's ready to gamble, like,
he's so studied and so prepared, and like he works so hard that you see what actually happens when the variance starts to swing in your favor. You just have these massive wins, right? I mean, like $1 million profit over a scoop is like wild, right? And so like, yeah, it's kind of like all that work that he's done has prepared him for when things start to go in your favor and you can maximize your wins.
Yeah, it's also like, call it like bonus as well, as Patrick's kind of in a spot where he doesn't need to be grinding as hard as he is now, but he just loves it so much.
This motherfucker's playing the 55s, the 109,
he's playing the
$5, anything that's running
really
that says
playing the
WCOOP on it,
He's
he's
playing
in there.
like
They don't give a fuck.
anything that's like a phase satellite. He's like, he's just in there. You know, he's like, I want the leaderboard. Like for Patrick, like it's more than just the money he can win, but that sort of place he can have legacy-wise of he's been playing scoops for who knows how long at this point. Player of the year, player of the series, high roller player of the series.
Sometimes you need more motivation than just the money, for, like the drive that you need, you know, having the leaderboard or something to strive for.
I'm sure the money
other
was
than just the bottom line.
I'm sure the bottom line was once his goal, you know?
Yeah, everyone gets into poker because they want to make money.
He gets to a certain point and he's like, okay, well, I need something else. And then you just whatever. Did he win it this year?
Longevity is defined by how much you enjoy it too. Like, you really see these guys who are like smart and did poker for a while that like fade away, and it's not because they aren't smart
can't
enough
compete.
to. Yeah, exactly. It's because they're not.
They're bored.
The word curious that you used is so important because curiosity in poker is like such a great driver.
Yeah,
and
I
it's
mean,
like probably just better than competitiveness even.
The more questions that you have, the more you want to look into them, and you realize that you keep having more, you know? And I think when it comes to the high level guys that have made it past that grind phase and they're more in the trying to not transition out of poker, but still play and have a life outside of it, gauge their future in poker based off of their curiosity of, do I still love looking at sims? You know, does this still excite me to know that you can play this strategy on this board or on this turn card? And how does that look in other spots? And having that drive to continue learning is what's going to keep someone at the top of the game, where money and time can only keep you there for so long. Like, you only have so much to prove until you're looked at as one of the GOATs. And I mean, in the Ike interview that he talked with Jaffe, he said, yep, I still love poker. I still love being curious. And once that stops, I'll probably do something else. But I'm not at that point even close at the moment.
Yeah, and he kind of talked about how curiosity made him such a great poker player, because it's like a lot of guys are really competitive. So they'll play a spot and not really know it. And out of competitiveness, they want to be better than everyone else at that spot. So they go study that spot. He's like, I think because I'm curious and not as competitive after we're done competing, he's like, I tend to look at that spot as a broader, like, oh, this is a situation or a whole type of situations that I don't fully understand, and I'd like to really understand these. And I do think it can result in the same like level of studying and knowledge, but I do think that being curious is super important.
Jesse, at this point in your career, what is your ratio in terms of studying versus playing?
Well, if you count watching like Triton events and all these different events,
like active watching is like
all study, no play.
When you watch videos and stuff and are curious, like do you run Sims for it or do you just think about it and then move on?
I do look at some Sims for sure. For different
Are we counting
hands.
Limit Hold'em?
If we're counting Limit Hold'em, I might be back to 50-50, baby.
Let's go.
I love my Limit. I got back to Vegas on Friday night. And Saturday I went and played Limit Hold'em.
There you go.
I miss my homies at the Limit Hold'em tables.
Ashley,
shout out to Kenny and the rest.
Ashley, I miss my peoples at the Limit Hold'em table. I'll see you later. All right, let's get into some Weekend Warrior recap, and then we're in the muck. Let's go! You already know. Your boy made a comeback. You already know because I already told you. Neighbors, plus 6.5 receptions. Easy money. We put the on it. 500 to win 575. We got it. We also got the extra $50 bonus for the most won for the week. Holla. Landon.
I love that you start the whole bit complimenting yourself, but yeah, okay.
Of course.
What else do you expect?
But I also shit on myself when I lose. Go check last week, my dude.
All right, yeah, that's true.
Landon, what's poppin'? What'd you do this week?
The fins are not popping.
Wah, wah.
The fins aren't popping. Fins lower hit. I had the fin. That's not mine. That's Turtle. That one's mine.
All right.
I had the fins lower points, lower than 17. They had 12, so I was right there. I had fins -1. They did not win. And then I had the under the game, which did not win after the Titans picked up some garbage time TDs. And
down bad.
Down bad. I'm going to have to change my strategy.
Yeah.
I think we gotta fade the fins, man.
All right.
We can't fade the Panthers anymore. The Panthers are too nice. But the fins, like, they're probably tanking.
Yeah, you know who also should fade somebody? Your boy next to you. He had the bum Najee Harris over 64.5 yards.
Najee lower.
Should have stuck. You know, I should have stuck with George Pickens. Why didn't I? He did great for me the week before. I thought, with the Colts and their running, their rush defense is not great, but they showed up and, we got behind early. And I don't want to get into the whole thing.
It didn't seem like their rush defense wasn't that great. I thought they were number one in the league after Sunday.
Well, you know what? That's because Najee maybe had about 10 yards.
Hey, man, you guys scored points, though.
Fields popped off for 55.
You guys scored points.
We did score points.
That was probably nice to see.
We made some mistakes. Mistakes were made.
It's kind of crazy, huh? Like, the more the Steelers score, the more likely it is they lose.
Listen, here's the thing. The refs,
because they get the garbage time.
We made tons of mistakes. The refs tried to fuck us, and we still almost won the game. So a lot of things have to go wrong for the Steelers to lose this year.
By the way,
we'll be all right.
By the way,
coming
Landon,
back strong. Gonna beat those boys on Sunday night.
Cool, Landon. By the way, the Colts starting quarterback was knocked out of the game in the second quarter. Anyway, Guapo. I had to do a little research, but our boy Guapo found a little doggy dog in him.
I've been picking a dog for the last 3 picks.
You found a little doggy dog
all
in
of my
him.
anime picks have been dogs, and I've only missed one.
That's because Guapo's a dog.
I'm cooking, boys. I'm doing all right. Renato
Mucciano. Didn't he do some wild shit?
Yeah, he had some stuff to say after the fight.
That's kind of his thing. He always goes on rants about politics and countries.
Apparently, Paris kicked his ass out. They said no more Renato.
He had some not so kind words for Macron.
I don't think we'll be in Paris for a little while.
Oh, UFC in general.
Wait, is he the one who made the microeconomics speech after winning one of his fights?
Yeah,
I didn't connect that to him. That's wild.
Yeah, he's talked about like police officers in like certain cities, and like he's always got something to say.
I mean, if you got a platform. Yeah, got things to say.
All right, well.
He is also not a news source.
Our boy Hanks took an L. Our boy Hunt took an L. Our boy Berkey took an L. But Jeff Platt's still on top.
Undefeated.
Jeff Platt, he told us Navy
Sharpest of the
-3.
sharps.
Bing, bing, bing. All money, baby.
I think we need Jesse to start getting in on this Weekend Warrior.
Well,
Maybe
we got to
bet
figure out
UFC as long as I can do that.
Yes.
Man. All right,
All right, we got Platt leading the way at 2,400. I'm right behind him. A little 800 behind.
Hanksy's in trouble.
Oh my God! This
Someone
is the
pray for
911. We got a little problem for Hanks and Hunt here. We don't know how they're gonna catch up here. You know why? They're in the muck. They're just
no. Hold on. Before we get into the muck, I have a PSA.
Okay.
Guapo's taking a stand.
No, I'm not taking a stand. It's just Max Holloway right now is plus 200 versus Ilya Topuria. So I think this is another sharp play.
Max Holloway is the gangster that was in the middle of the ring when he already had a fight locked up, calling somebody into the middle of the ring just to throw blows with like 50 seconds to go.
Who is this guy?
That's the Blessed
Tell me a
Express.
little bit more about this, Guapo.
Best is blessed.
Yeah, I just think at plus 200, this is not sharp. So
Wait, isn't he the champion?
no, he's
Topuria
the
is the
champion
champ.
of the BMF belt, but not national
okay.
champ. Yeah,
Who did he? That was the fight that he won
against Gaethje.
Gaethje.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was such a good fight.
That was the
Jesse,
ring
you
brawl.
watch UFC. I mean, what do you think? Plus 200 for Max Holloway. Does this seem like a good bet?
So I don't know when the markets opened or what they opened at, but I would imagine that some people are pricing in the fact that Topuria handled Volk really well, and Max couldn't beat Volk in 3 fights.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they call that UFC math, right? And that almost always is kind of a bad way to think about things, and it's more about like the particular one-on-one matchup.
Also, the styles here, I think, are important to note. Ilya kind of likes to stand up and bang. And I think Max Holloway versus Ilya, if they're just going to stand up at plus 200, this seems good.
Yeah, Ilya has kind of mentioned in interviews that he might go for some takedowns and stuff like that. Like he thinks his wrestling might be better, but people just don't really wrestle with Max for a reason. Also, like, it's going to be terrifying if you bet Max, by the way, because the whole fight, you're going to have to be sweating out Ilya knocking out Max, because Ilya has crazy knockout power, whereas Max kind of beats people down slowly and surely.
And then in the ring with 5 seconds left.
Dude, that was
so insane.
You know what's sick about that? That was easily the second best Max Holloway moment. I'm such a massive Max Holloway fan. Have you ever seen the, like, when he's shouting at the commentators and he just like matrix dodges?
Yeah.
Bro, this is the sickest clip I've ever seen in
MMA.
fighting. It's not even close.
Find it, Guapo, find it.
He's just destroying. It's Cater, right? Calvin Cater.
Yeah.
If you could find this, bro, this is the greatest.
I think it was Cater.
He's destroying Cater, and the commentators are
booth,
they're talking about how it's like a record amount of punches landed, and he starts talking shit to the commentators, and Cater tries to throw punches at him, and he's not even looking at Cater, and he's just dodging punches like he's in the Matrix. It's crazy.
That's sick.
So you like Ilya at plus 200? Or sorry,
no, I'm a big Max. I don't know. I would take Max at 33% probably, but I'm just saying it's gonna be it's like betting Israel Adesanya. Like, you know, I think he's often a good person to bet, but it's always scary, right? Because he doesn't knock people out. He wins in decision a lot.
It's attrition.
Yeah, and like he can get knocked out, and Max has never been knocked out, I think, but he could be knocked out by Ilya.
Yeah, he's pretty nasty.
Yeah. I mean, he knocked out Volk. That's terrifying.
Yeah. Max might be in the muck. You never know.
Might be in the muck. Let's get into the muck.
All right, we got I think we've had this submission before. Not this submission, but this player before. We got Judgmental Taco coming in, playing.
I like this name.
Playing, I believe they're playing 5'10" at.
Looks like 5'10" to me.
Yeah, 5'10" in Boston, Encore.
Boston.
And the villain here is Brian Altman, by the way. So he's under the gun, and he opens the 25. They're 2,400 effective. Folds to the taco on the button and decides to 3-bet with the Jack 10 of spades. Comes back around to Brian, and he puts in the 4-bet to 260. And we call and go to the flop of Jack of clubs, Jack 8 deuce all clubs. And Brian leads 10%. For 50, we make the call. The turn is the king of diamonds. Brian leads again for small again, 200 into 635. We call, and the river is the 9 of hearts, and Brian bets 275. And here's where we're in the muck, according to Judgmental Taco. He didn't say what he did, so we don't know exactly how this hand ended. But you know, 3 small bets, and you know, as the board kind of just, I mean,
I was about to say I think all 3 options are on the board. But
yeah.
I guess raise maybe not, because what do you don't really have queen 10 in this line or 7-10, right?
I mean, if you have queen, you have queen 10, but or like if you have jack 10, you have queen 10, right? Maybe.
I think this is a 4-bet pot, yeah.
It is a 4-bet pot, yeah.
I don't think queen 10 is supposed to be mixing it up here.
Is there an ante? There's no ante.
No ante, no.
It's a cash game.
Cash game, yeah.
I mean, ranges are going to be tight.
Right. You would think ranges are really tight here, and yeah, exactly. So
I don't think we can find a call here. I do like the way he played the hand.
You do like the way that Taco?
Yeah, Judgmental Taco played the hand.
Okay.
What do you think about it, Landon?
Yeah, I mean, it's brutal. It's brutal in the end. I think before that, there's no real decisions. I think
2 small bets are like you're calling. You're not doing anything. You're not raising, right? And he's making you. Yeah, you're just calling with these small bets.
I think that when it comes to how he played this hand before, like pre-river, I think is the only options. I think raising is relatively nonsense versus the B10, just because you are either wrecked or doing very, very well. So there's no need to raise to protect your hand. On the turn, finding a raise wouldn't really make much sense either. Once again, you're either ahead, beating some ace-queen type of stuff, or you are massively behind versus flushes and aces and queens with a club, hands like this, which can pretty comfortably bet the turn, as you're not going to be floating as the in-position player with that many hands with the king in it, unless you have ace-king off with a club that you've decided to flat pre. And I guess you could have ace-king no club as well versus B10, 50 into whatever. So you still have a king sometimes. And then on the river, it feels pretty brutal. Like you don't have really good hands. This doesn't seem like a good hand to turn into a bluff, as you don't really have good blocking properties. And you still might beat some bluffs some of the time, and the price is really good. I'm a sucker for a good price. I would just pay and live with it. Probably get shown like some ace king with a club or aces no club and lose, but that's okay when you're calling 275 into a pot of 1,000.
Right. You don't have to be right very often.
You have to be right very infrequently for it to be a reasonable call. So I would just call and think about folding or bluff jamming if I have like pocket pairs with a club, and use those as unblocks to try to get king X to fold and things along these lines.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
If you're Judgmental Taco on the river, what are your bluff jams?
Right. I think pairs with a club, like sevens.
I guess you call both streets for that size.
Yeah, you don't really have choice with the club.
Does the 7 of clubs matter that much as a blocker? Because like, is Brian really going to have a 7 of clubs in his 4-bet range?
He might have some ace-7 suited. He might have some of the fantastic forehands, like 7-6 of clubs as well. I do think potentially like ace-queen might be a good bluff as well. I'm just trying to get a little bit creative as well, because you're not only going to have one combo to use as your bluff, like ace of clubs, queen. Ace jack's going to fold pre. Ace queen might even fold pre here, right? This is under the gun versus button. Like you probably just fold ace queen pre. So you kind of have to get creative when it comes to what you're bluffing with. Maybe pocket tens with the club is a good one as well, where you're unblocking his thin value, like aces and ace king, while also blocking some queen tens that he might have as a 4-better for queen 10 suited.
Yeah.
So,
my big issue here is that I didn't know if we actually ever arrive here with ace queen with the club or ace jack with the ace of clubs, for instance.
Yeah, so ace jack would fold pre for sure.
Yeah, there's almost no like natural bluffs where you have to have like pocket sevens, which if you pure peeled the button pre, I wouldn't hate you for it. Something along those lines, or you have to like start turning something like jack 10 into a bluff. Maybe I don't even know if jack 10 is the best hand. I think.
My bad. I joined the computer.
I think you actually want something along the lines of.
Help.
What have you done?
I joined with computer audio. Turn up volume no. Help.
Where is the
Just throw the computer on the ground, man.
Yeah, just smash it.
I think I fixed it.
Did we fix it? No. Still echoing.
Leave
computer audio right there.
Okay.
I think we did it.
Okay, we fixed it.
Woohoo!
I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't have my own computer. That's on me. Anyways, we're back. I have the sim. Sim is back. Echo is gone. It's all coming together. I sorry.
We're just trying to keep everybody on their toes. That's all right.
Yeah. So flop for Under the Gun is supposed to be a 40% bet instead of the speed 10, mostly because of how tight the ranges are, I would imagine. So you're not really doing too much when it comes to the B10. But for sake of the machine, I'm just going to give it the B10 option. And as you see here for the button, you're not really folding very much. You're just folding the complete dust, no backdoor, like some of the time.
Yeah.
You know, you just don't find a fold versus
It's just
this
too
bet.
small of a bet for you to not continue with almost everything.
Right. So you see here ace king off is not really folding versus the B10, but also not 3-betting very much in the first place, just because of how deep they are to start.
Mm-hmm.
Where when you 3-bet ace king button versus in these ranges what would be the low jack, you are just risking too much for them to reopen it and make a huge 4-bet size. And now you have to play this big pot where you kind of have a hand that is now an effective bluff catcher. Or you have to like make a showdown value hand. So yeah, you shouldn't really be playing many folds versus the B10. On the king turn, it looks like you can go 30% pot, and with most of your ranges, the king is very good for you, and what you have as the low jack for Altman. Where you see here, ace king is going to bet a lot, ace king is going to bet a lot, aces, jack 10 is still a hand that can get some protection and value, especially if you B10 the flop, because imposition calls with their entire range. So a jack is still good for you, and the king is good for your overall range. So you can still find a bet and force indifference from pairs now, right? Like 9s is folding without a club, 10's the same idea, 7's the same idea, and you see here that your range is effectively going to be jacks. Well, jacks is a set, so like queens, yeah, like even queens no club, you have to start finding folds here versus B30, and you don't get to play any raises, once again, just because you could just be dead and they have really good hands. So turn call is great. Here continue for him. And it's not really winning that much money, but folding would be losing a lot overall just because of range construction. And Altman on the river has options. So he has the block size for hands like aces, hands like ace 8, which I guess is bluffing, because you're probably trying to get some folds from like pocket 10s with a club,
or
and you
jack.
block, and you block middle set, which is an interesting one to find. I would not have found this line with ace 8. To me. And then you have some bigger bet sizes when you have really strong hands like flushes, set, and then nut flushes, and then your bluffs are coming from like 7s. It's very obscure to find these 180% pot jams, like with pocket 7s, no club. Like you're just absolutely ravaging it off because you have a polar range of nut flush or nothing, and you want to have the unblocker to allow your opponent to have ace of clubs blank to play call, fold.
Pads would have this power jam 100% of the time.
Patrick probably wouldn't be 4-betting that often with the 7s, but point stands. Like you have to get really creative as the out of position player to find bluffs here, because you don't have offsuit non-showdown value hands. Like ace queen doesn't 4-bet pre. So when that's the case, you can't use ace of clubs queen to bluff, and ace king is too good. Like ace of clubs king is kind of mixing a mergy jam, I would imagine, because if we jam for 180, the button is going to call, like you're folding out chops and you're folding out aces. So you're kind of merging really hard. As you see here, aces with the clubs calls on the end versus the pot in 180. So ace of clubs king is a good jam for the out of position player, as it blocks that combo from calling you and unblocks the other versions. So like suit specific things going on here, but block is part of the strategy. And we see here from The in position player, Jack 10 is just an indifferent hand where sometimes you have to pay, sometimes you have to not pay. And
I forgot we have 10s with the 10 of clubs. That's a nice.
Yeah, so
that's a nice bluff.
So 10s with the club is going to get in there, like blocking. Does he even have Queen 10?
No,
no, he
Queen
does
10
not.
doesn't exist.
No
yeah.
Queen 10. He does have Ace 10 of clubs a lot for value, I suppose. And then your cards do well at unblocking the thin value. So it does look like versus this line, pocket 10s is good. You're mirroring your flushes. And then you have like pocket 6s with the club as well. So like 6s, 7s are in there a little bit too.
Cool.
So you basically need to get creative, use hands like this. Ace of clubs king is like a really hard one to find as you're turning a showdown value hand into a bluff. But the out of positions range is so centered towards nut flushes. When you have the ace of clubs, it's more likely he's thin value betting against you. So when that happens, you get to jam and fold out aces yourself. And once again, you use the ace of clubs as the in position player to block getting called at a frequency by aces with the club and blocking the nut flush combos like ace 9 of clubs, ace 5 of clubs, ace 4, and ace 3. So he's only left with pocket 8s that needs to be indifferent and then pocket kings for top set. And if you coolered him, you coolered him. And when you have the king in your hand, you block top set as well.
That's a really tricky, sweet situation too, because I believe you get the chops to fold when you bluff with ace king with the ace of clubs.
Yeah, so they can't even bet the river. Ace king is too thin.
Oh, my fault.
No, you're good. So in this node,
I thought they'd be blocking.
The ace of clubs is like a huge card for both people because it blocks so much of the value of having a flush in the first place. And when the out of position player block bets, it's more likely that they don't have a flush in relation to everything else. So ace of clubs is such a key card blocking this entire top range and blocks the indifferent calls from aces where the other ones have to pure fold or even check themselves. So yeah, I think it's just like a well-played hand. And you can make the argument of like, oh, did Alti make a mistake by going B10 as a flop 4-better? Maybe, like, is it a theoretical one? Yes. But maybe he did it on purpose, right? Maybe he knows.
It's like we're going back to what we were talking about.
Yeah, it's exactly going back
Like,
to it because it's such a marginal difference in equity between that and check that if like
if
anytime
he
I see
starts
somebody do
folding
that,
more than 3% of the time, he's printing.
Yeah. Well, and also like anytime you see somebody do that, like what's your auto response? It's probably like, okay, sure. You know, because it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like you're betting 10%.
Exactly.
And
like you can replace that with a check and you're going to be just fine too.
Yeah, and you have no idea when the guy folds like 20% of his range because he doesn't know he's supposed to call pocket 6s without a club.
Or ace 5 of hearts at a very high frequency. You know, like finding an ace 5 of hearts float on jack 8 deuce seems mad.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, how are you supposed to find this? How are you supposed to find like 7-6 of spades at a 30% frequency and then all the other ones? Like, these things will not happen. So maybe B10 is great. And then on the turn, it's really good to go tiny because people might overfold pairs with a club and then not bluff them on the end versus block. So he's finding ways to still target that indifferent value while also not getting bluff jammed enough to put a hand in this node that overperforms versus the human versus the machine.
It's so funny that Alti took this line too because I have a group of friends I think are very smart about poker, and they for a long time they said he was probably the best at those like 3,500 5K WPT fields where you're playing against a wide range of poker skill sets, and so him finding these like weird exploitable lines like this makes a lot of sense to me. He's just so good at navigating those situations.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where all the win rate comes from, especially in the live arena. You know, if you're able to find ways and spots where you can be creative and take reasonable solver heuristics and use them against people that might not have the full grasp or extent of it all, because poker is a really hard game, and being able to know that you cannot fold versus B10 here is unintuitive. You know, it's like, oh, I have complete dust and the pot's really big. Why would I want to invest more money? Like, I would look at a hand like ace 5 of hearts and just like snap fold, because how am I going to win this hand? You know, it's just, I have no equity. Like, I have like no backdoor. Like, you're kind of hoping that he checks the turn and you just like try to steal it.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, I think it's just a good line by both people. And I think on the river, as we've seen here, it doesn't really matter what you do as the in-position player with Jack 10, as long as you don't jam river, because you want to have hands with better blocking properties. Where like if I had Ace of Clubs King here, I'd just be like, oh, okay, I mean, I guess I'm just gonna have to pay this off, and it is what it is. But it's a pure jam because it's like one of the best bluffs you're gonna have while also blocking value.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to find, you know. It's like you see Ace of Clubs King here, and you're like, okay, I guess I just have to put the money in. But instead of putting some money in, you put all of it in.
Yeah.
And that's a cool thing that I've learned from this hand just by running it. That kind of makes poker so wonderful and keeps the curiosity alive. You know, it's like, what other spots are like this in tournaments? Because this exists everywhere.
Yeah.
You know?
Jamming the Ace of Clubs King combo is also really terrifying because I didn't see what happens, but I assume it forces indifference from the sets.
Yes, 8s are indifferent.
Whereas, like, in reality, people are very... they're not excited to fold sets in 4-bet pots ever. So it's like, I don't know if you actually get the folds from those. They're like, you know what? It's a 4-bet pot. I have a set. If you have a better hand, like, good for you.
Yeah, and that's part of like the experience of playing poker as a whole.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes when people come up in the game, especially nowadays, where people kind of skyrocket to high stakes and they think, oh, of course a set should be indifferent. That's the main hand I'm targeting indifference from. And they run this, like they just run the jam, get called by a set, and they're like, that guy's dumb. It's like, at some point, this can't work, you know? Like, when you make these thin plays, somebody's right and somebody's wrong. Where if someone's never folding a set, you can't start jamming this hand anymore. But if someone's always folding a set, then of course it's a great jam.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what makes poker so cool, is you'll never have the perfect answer to these questions. And some people want to just trust the book, you know, like, play like the machine, play good poker, and long term you're just going to have value and they're going to overpay for it. And then other people are like, I don't think this guy's going to fold a set. I think this is a bad idea, but I think folding is probably off too, so I'm just going to pay.
If you want to submit your In the Muck hand, head on over to our Discord. There's a little tab, says In the Muck. Give us your hand. Make sure it's heads up. Give us something that we can run, that we can do. And we'll get it popping on the show.
I'm in the muck. I put the computer audio on. I'm sorry.
Landon is in the muck. And on that note, we will be back tomorrow at normal timing. And Berkey is back in studio with us, coming back from his trip from Uzbekistan. We'll see how he did, see what he did, see if he rode any camels or something along those lines. Who knows what he did?
He's cameled up.
I don't know. I got a picture at one point. He had a newspaper in front of him, said I'm alive. Who knows? All right. On that note, we're out. We'll see you tomorrow at noon. Later, squad.
Peace.
Later.
Peace.